Well, hello everyone. I would like to welcome everybody to this wonderful interview stream here today. I'd wanted to have Brian on the channel again for a while, since we were at Adepticon. But for those of you wondering, this is Brian Young. He is in fact the Caesar of the Marian hegemony. He is also someone who I believe is a huge Stefan Amaris fan and a huge fan of Malvina Hazen. But he also, when he's not running the Marian hegemony, he does in fact write as a freelancer for Catalyst Game Labs and several other properties.
You say that about all your guests. No, actually, it's funny. I did get to write a little bit about the Marian hegemony. I've got 2 Marian hegemony stories coming up at some point. One of them's coming up in the Legends 2 book.
Okay.
Where
I think I glanced over that when we were at Adepticon or at KarenskiCon.
Yeah, and then the other one is a Ghost Dog story that is like a 30,000 word, like short novel, long novella, where the Ghost Dogs fight the hegemony. So,
but why would they want to fight the hegemony? It's one of the only good states in Battletech.
They're hired to. They're mercenaries.
Look, sometimes
that's how mercenaries work.
Yeah, but at some point, don't the mercenaries have to have some accountability? For trying to topple the glorious regime of people who just want to restore the glory of Rome.
Mercenaries are gonna get their comeuppance when the Sea Foxes take over the mercenary review board.
Oh no.
Or something.
Just throw some red meat into the audience there. I'm sure the audience will be happy to hear all the what's the most popular faction in the game? Mercenaries. It's like, what are we gonna do? Oh, I'm sure we'll just have them all screwed by the Sea Foxes.
The Sea Foxes are going to be benevolent review board commissioners.
I'm sure, for some reason, and I hate to say this, I think they're not going to be quite as impartial as the Comstar folks, and they weren't impartial.
Yeah, I think the only thing Comstar liked more than sending messages was putting their thumbs on the scale.
Look, Blake's will be done. No, here's a good question. If there was some, I know you're a prolific writer. You've been writing tons of short stories, novellas, novels, etc. But what would you want to write that you haven't had an opportunity to write yet?
I really want to write some stuff with the Terra Jade Falcons.
Oh, that's so unfortunate, though.
Yeah. Stephanie Chistu's her situation's fascinating to me, and I'd love to touch on that some. And maybe I'll get a chance to in the future, but I really love the way the Jade Falcons are sort of split up right now, where you've got the Alina Mercantile League on one side, you've got G's Falcons on Sudetan, and then even further splinters, right? Like, you could even look a little bit like there's all kinds of different enclaves everywhere.
Yeah, who haven't picked a side yet, or who are basically become pirates.
I really think the Jade Falcon story is really fascinating, and I've been able to explore like 2/3 of it, and so that last third is really interesting to me. I would really love to.
But before you start writing the Terran Falcons, you have to either listen to the song Pet Cemetery, or you need to watch the film. Both versions.
Oh, I have, and funny story.
Sometimes dead is better.
Did you know that song is the most popular song the Ramones ever put out?
I had no.
No, I think the other thing I'm actually really interested.
HBS. Okay, we're good. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, OBS cut out for 2 seconds there.
Oh no. I'd also be really interested in handling Alaric and the Wolves and what's going on there, but I know they're in great hands with Michael Ciravella.
Oh yeah, Mike's amazing.
Yeah, so I'm really having fun where I'm at, to be honest. I've got the Sea Foxes I got to play with Voidbreaker, which is coming out next year, and that was really fun. And that kind of spanned a whole section of the Inner Sphere. But I'm really having fun in the Hinterlands. There's not much I'm like, oh, I'd really
Well, it's the most
like to be there
popular.
instead.
It's the most popular part of the new setting. Like,
And I'm not going to say that's my fault, but
It's
I'm not
all
going
your
to. I'm going to
fault.
say
No, I'm kidding.
I didn't. I didn't do anything to hurt that.
Yeah. Well, as you know, GE Chistu's Falcons are, well, I mean, they've been very well received in general, but you know, they're some of my favorite parts of the illClan era. Like, you know, as you're aware, I am quite the critic at times.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, out of all of the clans right now in the illClan era, they feel like the only thing that's kind of for me has worked. I'm expecting good things elsewhere now. Before I was a little bit more pessimistic, but now I am expecting a lot of interesting stories to start cropping up in some of these other places. But for the moment, like if we just look at where the table's set right now, GE Chistu's Falcons are the main thing that worked for the clans, and I am super excited. Like, you know, I don't say that lightly for Without Question, which it looks like I'll be reviewing.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited to get you a copy. And for anybody who wants to check out the first 3 chapters, if you have A Question of Survival, which is my previous novel with Chistu's Falcons, if you've got it on DriveThruRPG or DriveThruFiction or Amazon, if you re-download it, there's a 3-chapter preview of Without Question in there. So there's a chapter with G kind of making his plans, and then we have a certain mercenary command that gets a look in there, and Alexis from Question of Survival gets a chapter in there in that preview. And I don't know, I'm excited for it. I really, there's something fun about people scrapping for survival.
Yes.
That the Jade Falcons
putting them
have
on an
never really
island. Survive.
the Jade Falcons have never really had a chance to be like the real underdogs. They've always been kind of like the bullies. And seeing some that are like, you know what, we're not like the bullies.
I'm gonna correct that for one small thing. Whereas they might act like bullies, you're always the underdog if you're up against Clan Wolf.
I mean, that's fair, but that's
they don't act
shouldn't
like
be.
underdogs. I should stress. But like quite literally, if you're up against the wolves, there could be like, oh my god, there are 3 wolves, but we have 3 regiments. We're outnumbered.
Yeah.
We're outnumbered. We're doomed.
Well, it depends on who's in those three.
You've got Ulrich Kerensky, Phelan, Kell, and Natasha.
Yeah, no.
You're doomed.
We're doomed.
Why even show up? Did you bring a warship?
Let's just crash it on their city. No, we'll crash it on our city and hope we get them. That's the Falcon way, right?
Look, Malvina was a nice lady. I'm not really sure.
I've heard that. You've told me that before. I've never seen any evidence of it, but I keep telling you, ask Cynthia about that.
You know what? You know what? The funniest thing was the first time I said that, and like you and Michael gave me this look like, are you for real?
Yeah.
I'm like,
I'm still not sure. One of the things I love about the clans generally in the illClan era is that they all have different flavors now. Where before it was just sort of like they each had different colors, but they all operated largely the same way. And now they all have their own different identity in a way that goes beyond their colors and their patch, you know, and their logo and their name.
Yeah, I would argue that by 3060, the only clan that had kind of broken the mold was the Ghost Bears. You know, like out of all of them, like the only one that, like, you know, even all the way up to the moment they died, like Smoke Jaguar hadn't really broken the mold. You know, Novacat, they switched sides, but they didn't really change. They were on, like, you know, they all had something about them that was a little bit different than each other, but they were all kind of still in that same framework. Again, with the exception of the Bears. They're kind of the only ones who, you know, generally when the premise of the clan is like, we don't believe in like destroying the family unit, and everyone else does, so you just have very different outcomes.
Yeah.
Versus everybody else.
Well, and Sea Foxes
kind of carved their own identity out.
By 3060, no, they had started to. They had because like the Diamond Sharks didn't get as much exposure for a long time after they got mauled on Tukayyid, but that was fine because that's one of the funniest defeats on Tukayyid. Like, you know, just hilariously bad. Do you know how they lost on Tukayyid? It's amazing.
Which one was that? Most of my research for that was Jade Falcons because I wrote the Falcon story in the anthology.
Oh, this is brutal. So the Diamond Sharks had prided themselves on being the elite of the elite. You know, like that's basically what their con was, just like, oh, we're the best. I forget, it was like Con Hawker or something like that. But he hated Freebursts even more than the Falcons did. Like, just supremely hated them. And so when he lands on planet, he didn't have any logistics staff. So he took his Freeborn regiment, or his Freeborn galaxy that they dropped with, and he's like, you're the logistics staff now. And they're like, but we don't know what we're doing. We're Mechwarriors. He's like, you're Freebirth scum and Salhama. You're going to be the logistics staff. Well, it turns out taking your professional frontline soldiers and turning them to logistics staff is just not really conducive to victory. It gets better. Because he then's like, oh yeah, we're just going to pincer the target. You know, we'll hit here, go there. It's like, yeah, but you've taken like 3 days to even get off the ground, dude. Like, the comm guards are waiting for you now. They know where you are. They've got everything set up. Yeah, but they're Freebirths. Massacred. The entire clan was killed basically to 3 people. Like, that's how Seafox changed, because the demographics of the clan changed so wildly after the defeat at Tukayyid, because all the warriors were dead.
Yeah,
like, you know, except for Freebirth warriors. So, you know, what do you know? Management changed when when all of the Trueborn warriors were dead.
Yeah, you know, I mean, G's going through a similar thing where they're really going to be different because of that very reason, where all of the hardliners are gone, or for the most part.
Well, I mean, some of them are hanging out with Alaric right now.
Yeah, some of them are, and they're not happy about it, but we'll see how that goes. No, I had a lot of fun in the anthology that we did of that. I got to do the Jade Falcon story, and for me it was very much like reading the story of how the Falcons lost, and I was like, Comstar basically just did like the Lions of Savo on them and just kind of kept hitting them and retreating and making them seem like there was way more and that they were ghostly. So that's how I kind of came up with that Lions of the Fresno Plains story, was adapting that Ghost in the Darkness but to Battletech.
What I love about that too, and like, it's just amazing, is by all rights the Jade Falcons lost on Tukayyid, and we're not really ever told why they were given the draw, and I hate to say my headcanon for it is they just whined. I'm not even, because it's in their character to do it too. It's like, I didn't lose, and everyone's like, bro, just calm down. No! It's like, and I can just imagine the comm guard after like hours of debate being like, look, dude, it's a draw. Like, there you go. Like, you know, there's no reason to really continue this because you clearly have lost the field. And we beat all your friends. You know, we beat all of your friends except for the Ghost Bears and the Wolves. So how about we just call it a draw so you can shut up and stop bothering me. Like, I can just imagine Ulrich being like, can you just say that they drew? Can you just say that, please? Because this is good. Like, he's like, I'm trying to get other things done. Yeah, we finished the battle here, but like, I just keep on getting HPG messages from their con, and I just can't really do this. Can you?
Yeah, no, that was
they did no better than the Novacats. And the Novacats, because the Novacats are honorable and like are like, oh, we lost, okay. You know, you know what Clan Novacat should have done after they lost? They should have just immediately started complaining.
Yeah, that would have worked out well for them.
Oh my god. You imagine that? Just all the clans that lost, like, we actually didn't lose, bro. Did you see those scores? How's that a loss? What do you mean we lost on objective? That's not how that works.
Technically we lost, but really by losing we win.
Oh my god. I will say I appreciate the fact that the clans do actually accept L's when they get them. with one exception, that being Jade Falcon.
I mean, if I think if G would have lost the Battle of Sudeten to the Hell's Horses, he would have been magnanimous about that if he'd have lost, but he didn't.
Well,
so.
not only that, the biggest problem, funnily enough, the Hell's Horses, by denying the Jade Falcons the basic dignity of Zelbringen, and I mean very basic, like, oh yeah, we're just going to run you over, you don't even count as a clan anymore, blah, blah, blah. Funnily enough, if they had actually engaged the Jade Falcons honorably, there was a much higher chance they would have won that battle.
I don't know. G is also the guy you got to remember who's like cluster together so they miss their targets and hit each other so we can get rid of Zell.
Yes, but the thing is the Hell's Horses had local supremacy, and as a result, like G's trick of like holograms and stuff would have been out of place. So like, I'm just saying for the Hell's Horses, their own tactic of disregarding Zelbringen and ignoring the honor of their opponent is I'm not saying they would have won anyway. I'm just saying that it would have increased their chances of victory to actually engage them traditionally rather than just being, we're just going to run them over and kill everybody. It's like, well,
yeah, well, they thought the G was down for the count, and I'm really excited because we finally get to see that from G's perspective, and without question, all of that.
I want to give special recognition to Tizlandi in the chat, who says Hell's Horses would have managed to fumble the ball somehow anyway. You know it. I agree, actually. Hell's Horses actually have never tasted the sweetness of victory. They actually don't understand what it tastes like. They've never experienced it except for against one another. I agree with you.
And when they ally with somebody like the Jade Falcons, they're just like, you know what? Those guys are fodder. Let's just kill them with our people anyway, just to kill some Kellhounds.
The proud history of Clan Hell's Horses, you guys.
Yeah.
the proud martial history of Clan Hell's Horses. But I think the Hell's Horses are going to have some exciting things going forward. I'm able to spoil a few things out of the universe review because somebody already has, but in the end of it you have the faction section, and factions that I think are going to be more important to the lore seem to get larger sections at the end of the book, and the Hell's Horses have a pretty detailed section. So I'm I don't know anything beyond that, but I would say that's an indicator that that we'll see more from the Hell's Horses over the next couple years. Oh, Ray, you know what? Thank you, Ray. You should have cut them out of the book. They're not even worth mentioning. They've never even done anything worthwhile.
The thing about the Universe book, it's a gorgeous book, and I was not expecting any contribution of mine to in any way make it into that book. But I was so like humbled and happy to see that Fox Patrol got their logo in there. No mention or anything, just their logo, but that was enough.
Look, guys, actually, I think it's got more than their logo. I also think it's got their name underneath the logo.
Oh, well, that's important.
So, I finally have the Fox Patrol anthology. Because you've done like 5 or 6 stories for the Fox Patrol now, if I'm not mistaken, or is it?
So, Fox Tales has their first 5 stories that are all 10 to 12,000 words each.
Yep.
And then Shrapnel 13 through 16 had all 4 parts of a serial novel starring them, where they go to
9 pieces then for them.
Yeah, where they go to the AML and work for Morena.
The only one I've read is part of the one where the whole of one of them where they work for the AML, but because I was like, I was ill-informed as to the previous ones, I'm like, I'm not lost, but I also don't really know who these people are. But that is going to hopefully change very soon, because after I'm done the Battletech Universe review, I'm actually going to have time to read more things for at least a little while. So I'm actually looking forward to finally digging down. You convinced me at KerenskyCon and Adepticon over breakfast for like 2 weeks. I'm like, I should probably actually read this story. It's like, I've been meaning to. It's been on the back burner for a while. I should probably actually do that. So, well, I'll ask you a fun Fox Patrol question. What inspired the Fox Patrol?
So there's a bunch of things. One is that first story really came to me as like one of the first stories I ever pitched, John Helfer's. And I really love like the Iron Giant. And I kind of came up with this idea of like, what would it be like to be someone who's really into mechs and finally finds one, like Hogarth finds the Iron Giant. And in my playing as a kid of the Mechwarrior games, like my first introduction to the Battletech universe was like the 1992 Super Nintendo Mechwarrior game.
I remember that game.
Which I loved so much. And actually, when I was going back and writing Honor's Gauntlet, I went through and replayed it again. It was a lot of fun, just to get that flavor of the universe. But the way I used to play is I would just load up laser boats and not care about heat and only take jobs in places where there would be like lakes or ice or something. And I would just go stand in the lake and hit my objectives there to help manage my heat. And so I had this idea like, well, what if somebody's doing that? They jump into a lake to manage their heat, but they end up like dying of exposure. And I had this image of a young girl swimming out to the middle of this lake and finding this battle mech under there.
So you're the one who was piloting the Kit Fox. That's what you're saying. It was you
Yeah, no,
who
it was
was
me.
the original owner of the Kit Fox.
So that was my original idea, and I was just like, I just wanted that image in a story. And I sent it to Phil and John, and they were like, no, maybe she finds it in a jungle or something. And I wrote that first story and just fell in love with Katie and tried to approach the universe from the perspective that I wanted to be introduced to the universe in. Somebody who just has like an unbridled enthusiasm for all of it. Because I think in Battletech we kind of forget a little bit about how like famous mechs are and how famous like the way we talk about mechs around the table when we're playing. There are going to be people in the universe who do that armchair quarterbacking of mechs too, and sort of
100%. 100%.
Seeing a young person do that was really exciting to me, and I wanted to create a unit around her. And Fox Patrol was the name of one of my squads when I was a wee lad in Boy Scouts. And so, like, the Kit Fox made sense for that, and just sort of building the unit up around that and making them just really bad at it all sounded like fun to me. And like we talked at KerenskyCon a lot. Like one of my favorite things about them is just like they can't even afford ammo, so like they're conserving their best ammo.
Oh boy!
Because they can't afford to redo it. So they're like, is this job worth the missiles, or should we just go with the lasers? And
it's like I love the fact that they are bad enough at like finance, at, like handling their expenses. They're like, I don't know if we can afford to take this job. It's like, bro, you need to work.
Yeah. So that's really the genesis of where they came from. And I wrote the first four. I wrote the first 4 Fox Patrol stories at Mike Stackpole's behest, because I'd had Honor's Gauntlet approved and I was working on that. And I told Mike about the Fox Patrol, and I was like, but I haven't been given like a go-ahead or anything for it. And he's like, just write it, it'll be fine. Better forgiveness than permission. So when I turned in Honor's Gauntlet, then I turned in that first Fox Patrol story to Phil, and Phil was like, oh, this is great, we'll publish this. And every time he'd publish one, I'd just send him the next one, because they were all already written, because like I said, like Honor's Gauntlet and the first 4 Fox Patrol stories were written at the same time. Even though it took like 2 years to get them out through Shrapnel.
Yeah. That's still really cool. That's
Yeah.
you know, like just in general, like out of the current prolific set of writers, you know, I've absolutely dug basically everything you've written so far. And like, you know, part of it is also like, you know, expectations. I didn't read the Ghost Dog story expecting it to be like a die-hard serious story, whereas I read A Question of Survival expecting a more serious you know, outing, and A Question of Survival is a serious and like, you know, actual. Probably one of my favorite things about A Question of Survival is just even in the opening with Emilio Hall just being so proud that he gets to vote. You know, like that has to be like one of my favorite scenes in that entire book. It's just like he's approached it with like he's with a degree of reverence and respect, and he's like, you know, I'm doing right by coming here and doing this. And I love when people are arguing nearby, he just gets uncomfortable.
Yeah.
He's just like,
yeah.
Can we just vote, you guys? This is a sacred duty.
Yeah.
It's a sacred duty. Can we just do that? And you know, like whatever the vote ends up being, the vote will end up being. Am I right, guys? As the whole building catches on fire.
Yeah. No, it was interesting to craft his character too, where he's trying to be cagey about which way he's voting. Whereas the reader, we understand where he's voting and why, but watching him try to obscure that from everyone around him, I thought was really interesting.
Well, he's a commanding officer. You know, like he can't be seen as like, you know, funnily enough, his chief subordinate has no scruples about behaving to the contrary, but like he's a responsible person. Like he actually has like the weight of command on his shoulders that he understands. Like he reads very much almost like a ship captain, where he's just like, well, I have the responsibility to my soldiers, to the people of this planet, to all these things. And if he goes out there acting like a buffoon, or like starts putting his finger on the scale, he's failing the people he's responsible for.
Yeah. No, I really liked Emilio, and I'm really disappointed I probably won't get to write him anymore.
Why not?
You know, I don't know if you heard, but the Ghost Bears kind of had a bit of a little rift in their society. Just a little one.
Poor Emilio. But no, but just in general, you know, it's still it's basically my favorite clan novel. And you know, from when we talked. By the way, guys, if you're wondering, I hung out with everybody, but I probably hung out with Brian and Michael the most while I was at KaranskyCon and Adepticon. It was always great hanging out with you guys. But you know, like I'm probably most excited for Without Question. Out of everything coming out in terms of novels, that's probably the one I'm the most excited for, because the subject matter is the most interesting, and because like your own excitement for it just is spectacular.
I had so much fun writing it and working on it, and even editing it. We're sort of in the editing phase now. Like, it's still so fun, and it's. I think it's going to surprise people, and I think it's going to, like, one of my favorite complaints about A Question of Survival is when people hit me with, I hate you. I like the Falcons now. And I think this is only going to exacerbate that.
Well, I liked the Falcons before, but I'm all I'm all about change. So as long as change makes sense, like, you know, when you put the building blocks together for the universe, if you can tell me a story about a faction that has not been told before, about them taking a turn in another direction, as long as the facts on the ground and the information and the characters can make that believable, I'm all for it. Like, you know, like I don't mind if you know, you change up Clan Jade Falcon as long as it makes sense to do so. You know, like that's just really, and you know, everything in a Question of Survival really just works for the Falcons reconstituting themselves in the way they do. As I think we talked about over like 1 or 2 days at breakfast, I was just like, you know, it makes sense that the Falcons who are, you know, in this area, they would totally change, because like the last time that they, you know, when they listened to the old ways, look where it got them. And not only that, the people who are in the Falcons right now are victims of the system. So why would they want that system to come back? Like, there's they would urgently look for change, because that change will benefit them, all of them who are currently in that group, because they know what it is to be outsiders.
I think it would have been a much different story, and I don't think it would have been a more interesting one if one of Malvina's supporters was the last blood-named Falcon left in the area to start rebuilding.
Oh no.
Like,
oh no.
Things would have been going a lot differently.
Would have been dead in a week.
Yeah. Well, I think that's absolutely true, actually. I think the interesting thing about GE is that he's willing to bend and break literally anything he needs to in order to ensure the survival of his clan, with a flexibility that I don't think Malvina was ever capable of.
I still loved your explanation, like when we were talking about GE, where it's like, family? Yeah, I'm good with family. He has no idea what it is, really, what it entails. He's like, yeah, is this going to help the Jade Falcons? Sweet, let's just do it.
If me believing in family is going to make you feel better about being Jade Falcons, perfect. Call me dad.
I've heard people describe him as like a charming but horrible, slimy used car salesman. I'm like, absolutely. He's got
a little bit of car salesman to him.
He's like, you're looking for a sedan? Well, van and sedan, they kind of rhyme a little bit, don't you think?
How about a vault ship?
So I'm obviously very much looking forward to reading more with him in it. But what was your favorite scene to write in A Question of Survival?
Ooh. One of them is that last scene with Emilio. That scene really hit me as I was writing it in a lot of the same ways that I think people described to me how it hit them.
I could feel the tension while he was in that room. And because I loved Emilio, I thought he was a great character, such an honorable, like as I mentioned, like how I describe him, he's a very honorable guy. And that's not something the clan's perception of honor is not always actually honor. People will talk about it, but it's really not. It's really selfishness. So I have my own personal take on honor is being responsible to other people as much as to yourself. So like I have very much like a blue collar vision of honor in that respect, right? And Emilio read like such an honorable person. Even when he made mistakes, he wasn't making those mistakes out of like self-aggrandizement. It was either for the betterment of the clan, for the betterment of the community. He thinks he's taking calculated risks. He puts his life on the line for people who he doesn't even really know. When he agrees, because a trial isn't meant to be to the death necessarily, but you can die in a trial. And so like when he agrees to basically fight a trial against his own orders on behalf of the people he was ordered to relocate, that tells you the type of person who Emilio was. Emilio was a incredibly honorable person. And when you read his death happens because he's unwilling to see the rot in the people he's serving.
Yeah.
It's just so sad.
That scene worked on a couple of different levels, and it kind of gave me the chills even writing it, where he understands that G's the Khan and literally no one else does. And it's vital to the clans that they find out, but Rand is so obsessed with him losing the kids, which is terrible. Unforgivable, right? Like his
career's over. Like
one way or the other, but he's still doing his duty despite that loss. And that line he has, I really like it, where he says, if you don't put down that gun, I'll show you how broken we've become. And then turns his back on her
because she'd never shoot him in the back. That's just A, it's dishonorable. B, it's like, they would have to issue a trial to one another. Like, he's assuming all of these things about Rand that just don't apply. And he's assuming them because he's a good person. As far as clan society is concerned, he's a person who, again, he's very responsible. And sometimes people will complain that, like, you know, certain characters like this could be boring. It's like, no, Emilio's character is far from boring. He's one of the most interesting characters in that book because he has a great sense of duty, and he's a character who is willing to give of himself, but also, you know, again, he's not a perfect person at the same time, right? Like, he was one of my favorite characters in the whole book, and I remember, I think that one of the first interactions I ever had with you on either Twitter or Discord, I was just like, man, I felt that tension in that room when you killed Emilio. You're like, so did I. I'm like, how dare you?
I think one of my other favorite moments was actually when the Sibcos are watching the trial.
They try to screw with the trial.
And Alexis comes up with the plan, and Daniel actually gets in on it. Because he's been sort of a jerk and her foil the whole time, and they actually go like, well, no, this is awful for all of us. We've got to fix this. But then that moment where Ivan Kova actually catches them all and brings them back, and then tears Daniel's patches off too. I really liked that stuff, and just I think Alexis has so much moxie, going like, screw these guys, we'll just challenge them to a trial. Like,
I love how she's like trying to debate them too. Like, I love the debate. Like, you guys have to stop this, and they're like both Emilio and G are like, shut up.
And neither of them are taking it personally. Like, Emilio's just like, sorry about that. Like, we're cool, right?
It's like go. You are stepping outside of your bounds. Go sit down.
Yeah, no.
Let the adults talk.
I think one of the hardest things about that book was that I knew so many people would have read the events of the book in Tamar Rising. And so trying to make all of it exciting and interesting and make sure that there were stakes involved really came down to making sure people were invested in the characters, which is why Emilio became so important and why his fate was important, and Alexis, because I don't think it would have been fair to tell that story about the Sibcos getting bartered away without getting the perception or the perspective of the Sibcos going like, this isn't cool.
You
right?
can't,
like,
we're human beings. You can't just like trade us away like this. It's like, oh, but we can.
Yeah, no, and I think it was an interesting choice. Like, Alexis was designed as a character to be outraged by that because she's outside of clan society enough.
She started outside of clan society.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it was just that book was just a lot of fun to write. But I do feel like, yeah, no, I'm really excited for everybody to see where GE heads in without question. I wish I could have done a Ghost Bear sequel, but that's not in the card. Maybe they'll let me do some Ghost Bears in the future. I'd really love to kind of tackle the Civil War and everything, but maybe see what Allison Rand is up to in the future.
Allison Rand seems like such a nice lady.
Yeah, no, she's a really great lady.
I love how you can usually tell if I think someone's awful. You can usually tell, like, they're such a nice guy.
Yeah. So the thing about Rand, though, is that, like, at what point, I mean, aside from the murder, at what point is she wrong about Hall giving away those Sibcos?
So she is wrong not in her, like, she's correct in the form of, like, we shouldn't have done this. You totally botched this. This was a dereliction of duty on your part. Like, she's right on all of those fronts. But she's wrong in her behavior.
Yeah.
Like, the problem is not... the problem has nothing to do with her criticisms. The problem has to do with her problem-solving ability. Like, her version of problem-solving is if she has the Smoke Jaguar solution to problems, where she's like, if I just get really violent about this, it's going to work out. It's like, well, that's not really how that works. I mean, you know, I would love it to see her end up fighting like the Hell's Horses of the Draconis Combine with that mindset, and just see how that works out for her. That's not really how that works.
One of the things I wanted to do with the book, though, is actually have people doing good things for the wrong reasons, wrong things for the right reasons, and just sort of create shades of gray everywhere where everybody's doing things, and the Hinterlands are like the best place to do that. Also, invading random planets in Racelhague.
So I've got 2 chats here I'm going to quickly read out because they seem relevant. One of them is from Karamond, who says, "I'm late. Did I miss Brian talking about his grand plan to remove all of Alaric's shirts and tunics from Terra?"
Sounds like Karamond is hungry like the wolf.
Oh my god. You know what? When that artwork got done because I'd commissioned Helena like 2 months earlier, and I told her, just take however long you need. I'm required to do this. Like, because I lost a bet. Don't lose bets, by the way, guys. It's a bad idea. You end up doing things you would really rather not. But when I sent that commission out to Helena, I'm like, oh yeah, it'll get done in like April or whatever, because like, you know, she's got a bunch of other commissions. And when she sends me the commission, I think it was on like the first day of Adepticon, I was like, oh no, this is the worst time for this to be done. But
it was because it became a group project.
That was hilarious when everybody was, I think that evening, sitting around the bar talking about like all of the horrible plans for the shirtless Alaric. It's like, this is terrible. We shouldn't do this as we keep digging deeper.
Well, and then it was John Helfers going like, oh, we got to make this a romance novel or something. Like, what would we title it? And everybody kind of had really quick answers, and I just go, Hungry Like the Wolf. And it was weird how you could hear a pin drop as soon as that was said.
Oh my, it was the worst. Then we've got from Besker, morning to Brian and Red. What a happy surprise this is to wake up in time to pick at Brian's brain like Hannibal Lecter. Well, I mean, I don't want to say that anything to do. I don't want to really talk about anything to do with cannibalism, Brian. I wouldn't want to go in that direction.
Wouldn't you? Okay.
That was one of the funniest moments of the entire time at KerenskyCon. Like, for one day, all I did was poke on this subject, like, I think 3 times in one day, where I was just like, but what if they were cannibals? And this is the literal rest of the entire time of KerenskyCon and Adepticon. but what if they were cannibals?
Well, and that turned into me spitballing stories about how I could work cannibalism into various stories in Battletech, and I'm not sure it's not going to show up.
You guys can thank the chat for that, because the chat is the one who pushed this like months ago, and it wormed its way into my brain, and I've not been able to fully dislodge it. Les James says, question: has your time spent writing Falcons made them a top contender for your favorite faction? For a favorite faction, I'm guessing he means favorite faction.
Yeah.
What are your hopes for the Falcons in the future? Both the Pet Cemetery Falcons and the real Falcons. Oh no. I love how that's framed. For the record, that seems to be the way most people describe the current dichotomy between the Falcons. Well, there's the real Falcons with G.E. Chistu, and then there's the other ones.
Yeah. So, I think the Falcons right now in the illClan era, the way they're at, is my favorite faction. And I do think it's because I've been writing them so much.
Yeah.
Whether that was in Honor's Gauntlet, sort of sowing the seeds for what iconoclastic Falcons bucking Malvina could be, or A Question of Survival, or Without Question, they're a really fun faction because they are hanging on by the threads of their fingernails. And I love that underdog story. Where I want to see them in the future, I want to see G's Falcons survive. I want to see them like really be able to give a finger, like give the finger to everybody else. You know,
We
like, hey,
made
we
it.
made it.
Yeah, we made. You know what? I'm pulling for GE's Falcons. As I said, I think they're the best part of the clans right now in the entire, setting at the moment. Like, we've not gotten we've not gotten an update for the Spirit Cats yet. So, the Spirit Cats may yet surprise me. I hope they do. I actually really want to see what the Clan Protectorate is up to. We've not really seen what the Snow Ravens are up to yet. So those are the two groups that are kind of not really given the outing yet. But I would be interested to. G's Falcons are the ones I can immediately grab onto and be like, this will be interesting, and I want to see where this goes, because the other premises just haven't caught me in the same way.
Yeah. Well, and without question really delves into, for Alexis and for G, what the definition of a Jade Falcon is, not just in the context of their personal beliefs or what they're willing to do, but also the perception of the Jade Falcons in the broader inner sphere.
Yep.
In the Hinterlands. And I think that's really interesting. It was really fascinating to explore, and I hope people find that when Without Question comes out. As far as Stephanie's Falcons, the pet cemetery Falcons, as it were.
Oh my god. The fact that sticks. By the way, that emerged on this channel originally. I believe I was the one who coined the Smoke Jaguars and the Jade Falcons as the pet cemetery clans in the middle of a stream like a year and a half ago. And ever since then, it's cropped up in multiple locations, and it's the default term. It's just the pet cemetery.
I'm interested to see the conflict between their identity and what they decide they're able to do, and what they try to, like, how they're working under Alaric, and how they're going to either separate completely or try to absorb or become subservient to G's folks.
Oh man, them becoming subservient to G would be the last blow to their pride. Like, how horrible.
Which pride?
To the Pride.
Oh, I thought you meant with a Y. Okay.
No. If there's somebody named Pride, he has to be the first one to die in the fighting. Oh no, we've lost our pride.
Archer is my favorite.
We've lost our pride. We've lost our pride.
No, there's a lot of really interesting stuff that can happen with both of them, and I think they're really interesting players on the field. But I mean, like, the Hinterlands are just, I don't know, the whole map. I'm really fascinated by everything going on.
Well, Brewer is the most interesting man in the world. I can't wait to see what the Vesper Marches get up to.
Oh,
he's such a sack of garbage. He's the most amazing character out there right now. And not because he's a good person, quite the opposite.
Yeah,
he's an awful person, and I love him for it.
I'm dying for the story of what's going on there to be told, because I know it's coming there, and I'm so excited for it.
Brewer's a madman. I love him.
I really, I don't know. I'm there's this enthusiasm that I have for everything that's happening in the illClan era, because I was there in that summit meeting with all of the major players. It was like all of the major players and then me, the new kid. At least I still feel like the new kid. I'm sure there's other newer kids, but I feel like the new kid. But spending those days in the room going, okay, we're going around the inner sphere. What's happening? What's the future? Under Ray's sort of blueprint, and we came up with some of the most interesting, fun stories, and I can't wait for all of them to be told. It's like part of the reason I'm working so far ahead as a writer, so that I'm already starting my next book after my book that's after Voidbreaker, which is already coming out next year. I'm already started work on the next one, is just because I'm excited for what's happening next down the line and what's happening in the universe. It's just, Battletech is really fun, and the universe is really dynamic, and the fiction is firing on all cylinders right now.
So, I've got a couple things here I'm going to quickly mention from the chat. I have to respect the chat, or the chat will be merciless to me later. It'd be very bad. But we've got from Mechanical Frog, Brian, give those poor foxes some ammunition. Now that can be taken in two different ways. So
I can't give them ammunition. They need to pay for it.
They're too broke to do anything. Then we've got Tizlandi who says, is Duran mandatory listening when discussing shirtless Alaric?
Yeah, and the funny thing about Alaric is that when he's shirtless, he smells like he sounds.
God damn it. God damn it. Then we've got Besker who says, I plead not guilty to anything related to cannibalism. I was just its first, second, and third victim. Now if I get eaten, all of you can be as well. Interesting. I just want to point out that cannibalism is ethically wrong. This channel takes a strong and firm stance against the act of cannibalism.
What's funny is that at Adepticon, we sat there and tried to spitball a colonized planet where it's not unethical.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, and I think we cracked that code actually.
If Kanji Chistu is broken and anything happens to Alexis, the Hinterlands will burn, says Karamindi. Karamindi is basically making a declaration of potential war in the event that something terrible happens to G.E. Chistu.
And my question for Karamindi is have you seen what's going on in the Hinterlands? What makes you think it's not on fire already?
It's been on fire for a while.
Yeah, this whole thing is a conflagration of catastrophe, and G's just in the eye of that storm. So I make no promises for the safety of any of them.
So Ray Arastia, some dude in the chat, I don't really know who this guy is, but he says, long live Vedette Brewer. Developing a box set for him. I hope that's true, because I love Vedette Brewer. He is an amazing character. Like one thing that is fantastic about Brewer that works so well is there's not a lot of characters in Battletech who delegate. Yeah, they delegate, but it ends up being them kind of taking care of everything, planning everything out. And like Vedette Brewer, not only is he just a malicious tumor of a human being, but the thing that's fantastic is that he himself is not a great talent. And that doesn't, I know people might say, well, then why is he interesting? Because he actually does delegate in a way that someone actually would. And like, that's why he's successful, is he understands what he's good at, and he understands what he's not good at. Like, he's an abysmal mech warrior, but that's why he just weights things in his scale. He's like, oh yeah, well, I mean, I'll just make sure the situation's in my favor. You're like, that's okay. it's like, you know, or it's like, oh, hey, I've got to take care of this situation. Oh, that's why I pay people to do that for me.
I do think you'll see a lot of GE delegating in similar ways where it's like, you're all better suited to do all of this. Go to, I've got stuff to deal with because there are too many fires on Sudaten and elsewhere in the Hinterlands.
So, Grammartron 3000 says, we approve of cannibalism in this chat for your information. No, we do not. Cannibalism bad. Then Tizlandi says, I'm a man on fire. G.E. Chistu. So he's quoting... One second. YouTube's being finicky today. I'm going to repeat that one. I think we're back. We're back. So, Tizlandi says, I'm a man on fire by G.E. Chistu. Is G.E. Chistu in fact on fire?
I mean, it depends on where we're talking about in the timeline.
What if he could be on fire?
I mean, G.E. Chistu is definitely in a lot of situations where he could get burned. I don't want to say too much because the book is so close. We've got less than a month before the book comes out.
You know what? I'm so I'm so irritated that I have not read it yet. I really mean that, like, because especially after hanging out at KerenskyCon and Adepticon and not knowing anything about the book, because I really don't know anything other than just like the vaguest possible terms of what your intentions were when writing it. I'm like, that sounds amazing all the same, and I want to read this stupid book. And it's like, oh, but the book's not out yet. I'm like, make the book out. Actually, I think probably one of the reasons why we got a release date for it was just because of all the pestering that John went through.
Yeah, we were very much like, we need a release date so we can get it out there.
Oh, hi, Aries. My dog Aries has decided to visit. Good boy, Aries. I know. Is the Hinterlands on fire? If it could be more on fire, it could be more on fire. Yes, it could be more. It can always be more on fire. I think the best thing to happen to the Hinterlands would be if some of the major players all nearby just started invading it even more. Like Steiner actively invades it, you know, throwing caution to the wind with a crumbling economy and disloyal military force. Like, we're doing it again! Like, that would just be fantastic. Can you imagine? It's like, just ups the chaos as the whole area just becomes even more of a trash fire. So...
yeah.
Let's see here. Question for Brian. How many Trueborn Falcons are roughly left in both Falcons? Because there's about 100 on Terra. Ooh.
So, I would say in G's Falcons, as far as, like, you're going to have a bunch that are going to be Sibcos, if he can get his hands on them. And there's some on Sudaten that he could graduate. And he's probably got a handful. But I would say the vast majority of them are on Terra.
Yeah, that would make sense. Because, like, well, I mean, there are a bunch of Trueborns in the Sibco he captured, but they're Ghostbearer Trueborns. They're not... I mean, they'll eventually be, you know, in the Falcons, because that's how it works. You know, they can still earn their blood names and stuff, I suppose. So it's gonna change the gene pool of Clan Jade Falcon.
Very, very much so. But if you're talking Trueborn Falcons who are part of Falcon bloodlines, G's probably got 25 or less. I'm not sure. Ray would probably be able to answer that better than I would. But if you're talking Trueborn Clanners, after
Trueborn Warriors, we should be specific. Trueborn Warriors.
If you've got Trueborn Warriors, he's probably got 100-ish. Between all the Sibcos that he stole, the Sibcos he's ready to graduate, and maybe more. I don't know.
Sorry, 1 second here. 1 second
like,
here.
You'll notice that I try not to hem those exact numbers into the fiction.
Nor should you. Like as we, I think Mike Stackpole actually mentioned this while we were all having dinner one day. He's like, you don't want to, you know, get into the specifics. You don't want to talk about specific ranges, and this applies to stories like this too. Unless the number needs to be specific, like unless it like, let's say that I'll use a good example here from another franchise. When Frieza says that the planet is going to blow up in 5 minutes, it doesn't. It takes actually about 13 episodes or some crazy thing, which is a lot more than 5 minutes.
Which is actually 5 minutes in universe.
It's really not. it's really not. But that's an example of you. What would have been better? The planet's going to blow up soon. You know, like, because, you know, like, you add tension, but you don't really want to be like, oh, well, the planet's going to blow up in 5 minutes. It's the same thing with, like, well, how many Trueborn Warriors do you have? We don't have many. Well, we've got 5. It's like, no, we don't have many, because that gives options.
It's a dire situation, and I have to understand that I'm not the only person working in this sandbox. And if I say there are 40 Trueborn Warriors in G's Falcons, and I've got names and purposes for all 40 of them, and another writer comes in and wants to kill one, he has to kill one of mine, because I haven't left them room to make their own.
Now, there is a, you know, after the fact, you can start looking at exact numbers, Like, like let's say 10 years from now or 5 years from now, when these stories are told and new source books come out that kind of give it's more possible to be like, oh, there were only 40 Falcons, or there was only this, or there was only that. Because, the stories kind of, you're not going to go back necessarily and revisit those areas, at least with any degree of frequency. Like, that is treaded ground, as it were. But while it's all happening, and while there's so many stories to tell still in that area, boxing yourself in is just...
Yeah,
just don't do it.
It makes fact check's life harder. It definitely makes the lives of other authors harder. It makes my life harder because now I'm beholden to other things, especially if I want to carry on these stories. So yeah, like I don't want to give solid estimates, but really the amount of Trueborn Jade Falcons left, or Trueborn warriors in Clan Jade Falcon, is as many as I need for the story, because I haven't been foolish enough to put an exact number.
What we really need now is we really need somebody in the editorial just to start dropping in specific numbers and changing it. Just changes one of your sentences. Oh, we have 40 warriors. You're just like, whoa, how did that get in the book? I didn't put that in the book.
Yeah, no, that would be fun. Fun.
So, Ray says it's the first half of the first. It's like the first half hour of the first Police Academy movie. Round up all the warriors, round up all the warrior washouts, and that is the only correct answer. That's really what happens in a question of survival, though. You get the washouts get retried.
Yeah, no, and I'm really excited to kind of see. Police Academy might not be the worst analogy for GE's Falcon.
Oh, poor GE. Right. Oh my. You know what? Really, the best thing is because of how flexible GE is as a character. Really, you can enter any subject whatsoever, and you can just apply it to GE. And as a joke, you can just be like, cannibalism, is cannibalism going to save the Jade Falcons? We can do it. We can do it if that helps. Or it's like, whatever it happens to be, it's just like, oh, we're going to sell all our warships. That seems like a terrible idea that we wouldn't have any jump ships. Apparently, it's going to save the Jade Falcons.
This is our read.
This is our read. It's scribbled. Do
in crayon.
Whatever we have to do.
Yeah.
But no, like, so I don't think you've done much with the Great Houses. Like, I know you're doing some stuff with the Marians and their contract, like, they're contractors for various mercenary units. But I mean, I don't think that you've dug into the Great Houses very much yet, though, have you?
No. No. I'm trying to think. Yeah, no. It's mainly been mercenaries, and Jade Falcons are pretty much where I've been at. In Legends, I did the story Attacking the Marians is a story about Isolde Centrella and the Canopians. So
if you had if you had the opportunity to dig into any of the Great Houses, which one would you want to be writing? Ooh.
So,
and this is irrespective of if other people have projects or anything like that. It's
just, but that's like kind of where my head is at.
But just you, if you got the chance to write any of the Great Houses, which would be the one at the top if you had that opportunity?
Right now, it would be the Steiners. And part of that is because right now no one's really driving the Steiner bus at the moment. And I don't mean that in universe. There's just not anything going on right now, but it's right up against the Hinterlands, and I know that there's a lot of intersection between the Hinterlands and Lyran space. And I've delved into that a little bit, and the Fox Patrols they're all from Lyran space. So I think House Steiner is really kind of where I would be interested in moving into if I were going to do some great houses.
Well, the best thing about House Steiner is you can always open another front. You can always open another section of hostilities that drags the state further towards the abyss. That's my favorite part about House Steiner. I'm so sorry, House Steiner. I can't help but make fun of them. It's just like, oh, we have started the front with the Wolves in the Free Worlds League. What should we do? Oh, we need a front with the Jade Falcons. Oh, we are all the way out to the periphery. We should start a front there as well. But we control the periphery. Nah, nine. We will let it break off and then open a front there as well.
I would really like. I had a lot of fun doing the Free Worlds League stuff with the Ghost Dogs in that stuff that's coming out. So the Mariks would be fun. I think the
Purple Bird is strong. I just want to remind everybody here today. Now that we've mentioned the best house.
The Fed Sons would be fun, but I don't think I could do it better than Ciravella, so I wouldn't want to try.
Oh, Damocles Sanction is my favorite novel. And I include the classics in that too. I love Damocles Sanction. That was a great book.
And then, the Kuritas and the Liaos, I'm not sure that I would be able to do them justice. I think Steiner and Marik, but Marik Phil has the corner on that.
I'm looking forward to Letter of the Law. I really want to see that outing. I think that I've been a big fan of Hunting Season. It was actually the main book that got me back into reading the more up-to-date fiction from CGL. It's a book I treasure dearly, and even though I missed like one subtle plot twist, it turns out, which I can't believe I missed until I realized, I'm like, no, that wording does mean I completely missed that. Holy shit. But no, I'm a big fan of Hunting Season. I'm really excited to see where Phil takes things with Letter of the Law. I think Letter of the Law, though, is a very important book because it's going to make or break all of the storytelling that has gone up until this point. So if you take Hunting Season, if you take Redemption Rights, which has a bit of Marik in it, and you take Empire alone, like Letter of the Law has to be some type of even if it's not the end cap for it, of course, it has to have some type of culmination of character growth and development for certain people in it, or it could fizzle. But
I kind of feel like we're at that stage with everything right now.
Yeah.
Like every book, we have to be firing on all cylinders in order to keep people invested in the fiction. And I feel like we are. Having previews or knowing what everybody's got working, now, I really think it's got that growth, it's got that dynamic feeling to the universe, and Ray and John Helfers have done a really good job of
herding cats.
Corralling the writers. I was going to say, but sure, herding cats. To really create a really great window into this period of 3151 to 3152, and it's just I think people are really going to enjoy all of this stuff going on.
Yeah, I'm excited for most of the fiction coming. There's nothing that I'm aware of that I'm that's not wholly true. I'm not very excited for Seafox based fiction, but you know what though, I am a person who's never say never in that respect. Maybe in a couple of years I'll be more interested in reading Seafox stuff again. So.
I think you're gonna love Voidbreaker if you check it out.
I don't think I'm gonna read Voidbreaker.
You're gonna hear so much about it, and you're gonna go, "Damn it!"
I don't think you have to understand. I also hate Tucker Harwell.
And that's fine.
I also hate him as a human being.
So what if we make that the next bet on your channel?
Can you, as I said, jettison him into space? Just it's an accident too. It's just a total fluke.
If you get a certain amount of extra subscribers, you'll vow to read Voidbreaker.
Nope, because I made that mistake with Elements of Treason Honor. I made that mistake, and I will not make that mistake again. I'm not gonna fall for that one. That's not gonna happen.
Well, they'll find other ways to bully you into it, because you're gonna feel like you're missing out. As excited as I am for Without Question, I'm more excited for Voidbreaker.
You know what? As I said, they're taking off into space, and the whole story ends up just being this one Seafox star captain having to try to explain to his superiors how they lost Tucker Harwell, and they're like, well, where is he? Well, he's currently orbiting Terra. It's like the airlock opens. Oh, what happened? We might have accidentally spaced the subject. What? So we've got from Besker, Police Academy is now canonically GE Chistu's Falcons. Then from Mining Mech, the Lyran Commonwealth, aka front row seating. Oh no. We've also got from Mining Mech, anyone can be on fire, a word of Blake proverb. Praise Blake. Then we've got Raced, who says, don't show Trillian that picture of shirtless Alaric. She might find him irresistible. I'm pretty sure they're really closely related. Like, just FYI. I don't know if that... I don't know if that's...
When has that ever stopped a clanner?
Yeah, but Trillian is not a clanner.
No, but she's opportunistic in her ways.
Oh my god.
Is this going to save the Lyran Commonwealth?
Oh no. Oh my god, it's the same as G. She's like, is this going to save the Lyran Commonwealth? It's signing documents. Besker says, Trillian, I inherited a house on fire. I have no fire extinguisher because it was stolen. The firefighters are gone because we are broke. Oh, no. Then Karamin says, Tucker Harwell found Russell's teapot. Followed up by poor Craig A. Reed, also read Les James, and I will read it for you and explain it to you so you can suffer as well. So, for the record, I did something really, really unscrupulous, which is where I started reading the things from the book in the middle of a chat that I was most enthusiastic about, and people started screaming at me to stop really angrily, but because it was my Discord chat, I just muted them and continued to read until everybody left.
I mean, that's one way to clear out the room. When she was hosting parties, Carrie Fisher used to put on a VHS tape of the holiday special when it was time for everyone to get the hell out.
Oh, that's mean. That's not a very nice thing to do. There ain't no lovin' like cousin lovin'. Les James, god damn it. God damn it. So, let's see here. Is there any other good questions from the chat? So yeah, like other than that, so we know that you're working on all of these wonderful projects for Battletech, and we know everybody's firing on all cylinders. But what books are you most excited for that you haven't read?
I haven't read Trial of Birthright. I know generally what's going on for Ilkhan's Eyes Only and Trial of Birthright, but things are in flux because Ray's master plan is connecting them in even better ways, and so it's going to be surprising in some ways, I'm sure. And I'm really excited for Trial of Birthright. I am really excited for the stuff going on in Lao space.
The Capellan Confederation.
Yeah, like the Capellan Confederation has got some really exciting storytelling coming up that I cannot wait to read. I'm really interested in Russell Zimmerman's serial novel that's going to be starting hopefully in Shrapnel. Yeah, like there's nothing in the illClan era I'm not looking forward to. And that's not to say I'm not looking forward to the stuff that's coming out, like the Wars of Reaving trilogy or Den of Wolves or anything like that. I am, but because
the illClan era is your playground, right?
Yeah, the illClan era is like where I have to like know everything so that it's easier to write, and that's the stuff I'm most excited about. And I love the illClan era generally too, because it feels like the best of all of the eras. It has all the political intrigue, it has the clan stuff, but it has that balance of technology. It has mercenaries. It just has everything.
It doesn't have everything. It lacks one thing that I know that if I don't say, my audience will harass me.
The Piece of Blake?
There we go.
I think it does have the Piece of Blake. I think the Piece of Blake has been achieved.
Oh no, Brian's just trying to make enemies. That's all that's happening right now. Brian's like, you know what? I really would like to make some enemies here today on stream.
Well, they fulfilled their mission. They're good.
I mean, I don't really know how you could look at the Inner Sphere right now and call it the Peace of Blake, actually. It seems like the 6th Succession War.
Tomato, tomato.
But no, in general, I like the illClan era. I think that it's, obviously I want to see where more things go. I don't have the foresight of things to come, of course. I have vague notions of certain things that are going to happen. I will say, before I went to KerenskyCon, I was still looking forward to certain parts of the illClan era, but I was a bit of a Debbie Downer for other ones. I feel, in general, a lot more confident with the general direction. Like, I generally feel more positive about it as a whole. Like, just to give a perspective, like, Trial by Birthright, I was going to read out of pure obligation. Like, just pure obligation. I was just like, I'm not interested in this book, but Michael is writing it, and I promised I would read Michael's next book, and I just hope that it's not on fire. And after being at KerenskyCon, and like, I love Michael Saravella's work, and he's a great guy. So just in general, I was like, well, at least it's a Saravella book. But now, after being there, after kind of getting a bit of a lens on it without knowing anything, because I don't, I went from being pretty negative to being, I don't want to say hesitantly positive, but I something beyond
cautiously optimistic.
I'm cautiously optimistic about it now. Which, if anyone knows me, when it comes to wolf novels, that is quite an accomplishment. To go from my typical take on it, which is like, it's a wolf book. What's that mean? It's bad. But you haven't read it yet. Do I need to read it to get this? And you know what? I know that some people are going to fight me on it. I don't care. I know. Every time I pick one up, I'm like, but no, I actually have some confidence, and realistically so. So it's not just out of nowhere that I think it will be a good book. It's a question of, to me, it's no longer a question of if I will enjoy it or if I think it's good. It's a question of how much am I going to enjoy it. Is it going to be something that I like, sing the praises of, or is it going to be something where I just go, it's okay? That's more where I'm more questioning at this point, like, and again, I have a lot of trust in Michael Saravella as an author, but it is the wolves, and they've literally let me down in every other instance. So it's more a matter of, it's like, is Michael Saravella gonna get past the curse? Is Michael Saravella gonna get past the werewolf curse?
I think so. I think we've got, led by Ray and John, everybody involved, from Phil and Jason Schmetzer to Stackpole and Randall and Lauren and everybody that was in the room sort of setting up the blueprint. Like, Battletech's A-team was working all this stuff out, and it was some of the most, like, exciting, creative conversations I've ever been a part of. And I don't know, like,
as I said, I think it's all going to work out. As I mentioned, I'm just saying that the only question, like, before I was like, I don't know if this book's going to work, and now, as I said, I'm 99% sure it's going to work. It's just a question of, how good is it going to be? Is it going to be something where I read it and I'm like, well, it was a passable read and that's fine, and it does its job, and it's way better than I would have ever anticipated 6 months ago? Or is it going to be like, this is a great book and it's helped change my perception of some of the things that I otherwise would avoid in the lore? Those are the questions I'm more looking at there.
One of the things that, like, and hopefully, I mean, it certainly reminds me when I get together with everybody at those conferences. But, like, it's really easy for you to go like, oh, Catalyst is sort of this faceless blob of a corporation, but it's just a bunch of people who really love Battletech and don't want to do anything to screw up the universe. Everybody really cares a lot about it.
Yes.
And everybody wants to put the best foot forward as possible for Battletech. Like, none of the authors working right now wants to be like, oh,
I'm the one who delivered a turd, everyone.
Exactly.
I'm the one who... You know how you were all enjoying that punch? Maybe get a new punch bowl.
Yeah. No one wants to be that. Like, everybody's doing as, like, the best work that they can, and like, yeah, nobody wants it to be bad.
And you know what? That's entirely the vibe I got while I was there. Like, because I've talked about this on stream a bit. You know, like I'm very much a very private person when it comes to my dealings with other people. I know that might sound shocking for a YouTuber to say it, but I really do mean that. Like, I don't like to mention, like, you know, conversations and stuff like that. But I can say that, you know, from my time there, I already believed a lot of these things because, like, I have a pretty good read. I used to be a business development manager and stuff, so I'm usually able to get a pretty good read of, like, you know, how things kind of are going, but you never really know until you're there and you're talking with people. And I was because I wasn't surprised at all, but it was so incredible to have a lot of my thoughts on how things kind of were run, like, confirmed. Where, like, there's so much just genuine passion there. And I'm not, like, I know everyone's gonna be like, he's a fucking shill! Sorry, I swore, but it doesn't matter. He's a shill! It's like, no, dude, once you're actually talking with people and you're understanding, like, where they're coming from, and you see, you know, you get to meet people with extremely creative views of the setting, who just want to tell good stories. And, like, that's the biggest thing I got from everybody I talked to, from Randall Bills, Lauren Coleman, Ray Arastio, yourself, Michael Stackpole. Literally everybody's just like, we just want stuff to be cool and for people to be happy. Like, you know, there was no, like, ulterior motive at any point. It was just like, we just want things to be cool. Yes,
there was an ulterior motive when you turned on Brent. That was...
Look, I made an agreement with a gentleman over a bottle of pop. And an agreement is an agreement. I loved the fact, like, I think it was on turn 1, I'm like, turn 3 is gonna really be the big one. And I turned, like, first to Michael and then to you almost robotically. And, like, I saw the look in your eyes, like, what's he talking about? Followed by, like, no, he's bullshitting. And 2 turns later... Brent, I have to shake your hand. Why? What's going on, buddy? Brent, I'm gonna have to shake your hand, Brent. He's like, why? What's going on? He gets up, takes my hand. I've been bought.
We were sitting at you know, we went to have a drink before the stream. And when it was proposed, I just thought it was a joke. I really didn't think you were gonna go through with it. I really didn't.
You know what? You let that be known that when Big Red makes an agreement, he follows through. The look on Mike Stackpole's face. You know who was the most? So the 3 faces that were the most entertaining as that all went down, it was neither you nor Michael, though it was still great. Like, you know, the look of sadness and disappointment was kind of like strewn across your face. Michael was thoroughly pleased with himself. But so the look, Brent Evans, I think the day before said, "Oh, I never look innocent." In that moment, when I looked in his eyes and told him I'd betrayed him, he looked genuinely like an innocent child whose truck had just been broken by another kid at the playground for, like, just a split second. It was just, you know,
it kind of was.
It's like, don't worry, Brent, I've helped you achieve a life goal. You looked innocent. So,
yeah.
But the other 2 was the look on poor Michael Ciravella's face past you guys. Because, like, you know, he's got 2 more days worth of content to do. He'd been planning the whole, so just for everybody who doesn't know, Michael had been basically planning all of the content for the live streams from Catalyst at Adepticon, and he was managing multiple tasks at the same time. That man is a brilliant organizer. He was doing it while he had lost his voice, so like huge props to Michael Saravella, and I made his day that much harder when I did that. And just the genuine look on his face when he was behind you and Michael was, his eyeballs were scanning across the table, his mouth was dropped in half shock and like just rank disappointment. And then the judge was sitting there next to him, just his arms crossed, staring at me, shaking his head. And some people were like, "You have to stop him." The judge is like, "I can't." He's allowed to do this.
And we were supposed to be showing off the campaign rules, and it's hard to have a campaign when half the combine turns red coat.
But it was fantastic. But you know what, like I will say it was great for viewership. Like if you take a look at the audience, and I knew this would be good for the audience when I agreed to do it too.
That's a really generous way to make yourself feel better about it. I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I have to sleep at night.
Or in the day, who knows?
For those who don't know, I got to sleep at 7 a.m. This morning. I tossed and turned all last night. I tried to go to sleep like 3 times, and I kept on rallying just before I went to sleep. I'm like, oh, finally I feel better, and then I just got this burst of energy. I'm like, oh, my life is pain. Why is it like this? But we've got a few more chats here, because I know we're getting late in the day now for you, so I want to make sure that we still have time there. So we've got Tucker Harwell, who says, Karamin says, Tucker Harwell found Russell's teapot. Oh, no, I've already done that one. Sorry, there's more, though. Oh, yeah, here we go. Brian Young has a point. The Capellans are big fans of incest without clanners. Well, Trillion's not a member of the Capellan Confederation the last time I checked. So, you can see where the audience goes, Brian. I'm sorry.
They're your people.
We've got Grammartron 3000. The clans are proof that incest is wincest.
Ray reminds us that Tom Levine novel's called Blood Will Rise.
It is.
Yeah.
Then we've got, from Besker, Brian, if you could go back to any era and write a story, which era, why, and what story are also after that comment, Brian, you are now free to leave airlock. Oh no. So, but yeah, if you could turn the hands of time and be like, I want to write one story in the past, which one would it, like, what would it be?
So there was, I've talked about this a little before, and I got to do a little taste of it, but I really want to see a complete Shakespeare-style play of the Amaris coup.
That'd be fantastic.
And it makes sense. Question,
it makes sense too, because Richard Cameron III was super obsessed with like medieval plays.
Yeah.
So it even makes like it ironically works as well if you were ever able to do that.
So I actually wrote a Richard Cameron soliloquy from Act 1, Scene 1 of this Amaris the Betrayer, and it's one of the epigraphs in Without Question.
Nice.
But I would love to tell that story generally. Like, I think it would be a fun story to tell, even though I think I almost wonder if it should ever be told, like the full details of the Amaris thing, because like what's in our imaginations is all going to be better. Like
I have such a terrible piece of news for you. You remember how we did Shirtless Alaric on the channel, right?
How could I forget?
So we're also doing Muppet Hans Davion. That's the next one. I'm making sure that gets to Michael Stackpole before it makes it to anyone else, by the way.
Okay.
But it's going to be a recreation of the opening of the Fourth Succession War, but all of the characters in the wedding are Muppets. It's being done by Eldonius. So, but
It's going to be amazing.
But here's the real kicker. At the end of this year, the next planned cursed artwork is actually going to be the betrayal of Stefan Amaris against Richard Cameron, but they're going to be from My Little Pony.
I don't see a problem there. That sounds great.
Does it? Does it sound great?
That sounds funny to me.
So we will be exploring the death of Richard Cameron and the grand betrayal by Stefan Amaris, but we will be doing so as if they were from My Little Pony, because friendship is magic.
You should do one that's cursed. That's like the Fox Patrol, but in the style of like Bruce Timm and Batman the Animated Series.
So just grim and dark, but nothing bad actually happens.
Yeah.
So Grand Potato says, I work a labor-intensive job and find it hard to focus on my book. I also have a bad habit of procrastinating and playing video games instead of doing what I'm supposed to. What do you do to focus on your work? That's a good question.
So, one of my favorite answers to this question is Brian K. Vaughan, the writer behind some great comics and stuff, Y the Last Man and Ex Machina. He said that video games is just another word for writer's block.
That makes sense. Yeah, I agree with that.
I actually, for the most part, when I have a deadline, don't play video games. The video game is a reward at the end of finishing the project, not even just like that day's work, but finishing the project. Because you need to give your time, your brain time to like have your subconscious work on it.
Yep.
The other thing is I try to get my work done first thing in the morning. For 15 years I was a writer and a person with a full-time job, and I had, a family and kids. And so getting up early at like 5 a.m, going to the coffee shop for 2 hours before I had to be in the office, and racing that clock going, I've only got these 2 hours to get my writing done, really motivated me. And so for the first 15 years of my writing career, it was very much everything was crammed into those 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. So the thing is like writing takes time, and you need to figure out what you've got on your plate that you can give up that time for. And sometimes it's deleting apps on your phone. So I don't have, the only game I have on my phone is like the New York Times crossword. You know what I mean? Like there's not a lot of the time wasters. I don't play video games unless the book is finished and I'm rewarding myself.
Yeah.
I keep track of what I do every day, and I keep a writing streak. So like I keep track of how many days in a row I write. And today is...
So you're just talking about delayed gratification and discipline. That's basically, what we're talking about here.
Yeah, those are my biggest tricks for it. The other thing is like if you're having a hard time focusing on one like medium, like I'll write stuff on my computer, but if that feels too distracting, I'll go to I've got a digital typewriter called a FreeWrite. And if that's too distracting, I'll go to my actual typewriter. And if that's too distracting, I'll go to my pen and paper on my notebook. Or sometimes I'll take that digital typewriter, or I'll take my notebook to a coffee shop and purposely leave my phone and my computer at home, to really force that focus. But yeah, you're right. It really is just discipline and, discipline, practice, willpower, and delayed gratification.
I mean, for myself, what my trick is back when I was writing, for fans, but I had 2 stories, and people were always like, why do you run 2 stories at the same time? I'm like, because if I can't write one, I can write the other.
Yeah.
Like, so if there's this moment where I'm like on a hot streak with one thing, I'm like, oh, this is so good. Yeah, out. And then you're like, oh, I'm just not feeling it for a little while here. I can turn to this other thing that's functionally very different, because I always tried to write different genres and different styles. You can actually see that in my videos now, where like if you look at my Black Marauder video, it's so wildly different than anything else I did on the channel. It's like, that's on purpose. It's because if I'm if I can't deal with writing the same thing that I've been writing, the same style that I've been writing for a year or whatever. I have to pivot. That also helps, I find, with writing, is just doing something very different and just having two projects at the same time. But that doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, and giving yourself time to let your subconscious to work on it, whether that's painting minis or going to the gym or taking a walk. I do a lot of hiking. So that kind of stuff helps as well, where you'll hike with the intention of, I'm going to work out this story problem. And, most times I come down off the mountain, I've got 4 solutions.
Funnily enough, when I'm walking my dogs, I often am thinking of different stories and stuff. Like the whole time, like just letting things play out like a movie. But Very Silent Mouse says, Clan Wolf book will kick Red in the dick. That's true.
Whether it's good or not.
Well, I don't know if there's many good ones out there. You can list a few, but I think we might disagree. But Trucking Joe, thank you so much for joining as a Captain General, for real. That's absolutely incredible. Welcome back, I should also say as well. Thank you for your support. I really do mean it. Thank you. Then we've got Besker. I'm not going to read that one, Besker, because it's really mean, and because I like Craig's work. And then finally, we've got Grammatron. Red showing his true Free Worlds League love of being bribed. Yes. If you're playing with someone who is an open and avowed Free Worlds Leaguer, that means that they're open to corruption. It's like, so...
This is the conversation we were having when Stackpole bribed you.
It's true, too. Do you know what one of my favorite things is? If you look at the original House Marik sourcebook, the Marik Commonwealth was founded on bribery. Like, it was literally founded on bribery, and then after the Free Worlds League formed, someone tried to bribe, I think it was the first leader was Charles Marik the First, I think. He then went public that someone had tried to bribe him. He's like, they're trying to impugn my character and bribe me. Look at these people. So he literally bribed everyone at one point to form the state, and then when other people tried to bribe him later, he used it as a weapon against them in public, and just no one. It's like a mafia state, so no one had the balls to challenge him on that. Like, well, you bribed all these other people. Like, do you want to really tell the mafia don that he's been bribing people? I don't think that's how that works. I love it. It's like, hey, he bribed all these people. Oh, but you tried to bribe him? Oh, well, that's wrong. You're impugning his character.
Yeah. And when Red gets bought, he stays bought.
Look, I don't make the rules. I just play them. You don't like the game, play a different game. So... we'll see real quick here. Fox Patrol in the style of the first Teen Titans animation. Oh boy.
That'd be adorable.
The shirtless Alaric Photoshop to have... oh no, we're not going to do that one, Les James. You know what? There's a lot of people who are hungry for the wolf out there.
They are.
Ever since that piece dropped, there's a lot of people out there who are hungry like the wolf.
The best part was the dramatic readings of the story that Stackpole wrote, which I'm still not sure why they're not out. I'll have to message him.
Oh my. That was tough to hear, that breakfast. The breakfast after, where Michael was sitting there and began to narrate to us what he had put together. There are some things, like I am aware that there are some things that you can't really forgive. There are some lines that get crossed that can't be forgotten. I'm joking, but no, that was a hilarious morning. Poor, I think it was you, me, obviously Michael. I think Brent was at the table, and I think Helfers was at the table. While Michael was delivering that fiction.
I just texted him to ask if he'd just screenshot it and post it on Twitter, so we'll see. We'll see.
So yeah, We're hitting the hour and 45-minute mark. It's 5 minutes to 3. Is there anything else you want to talk about here before we begin to wind up the stream here today?
No, I mean, I think one of the big things is if you want to see stuff, let Catalyst know. Let them know if you like. Let them know what you want to see and from whom. I think it always helps, right? Like, it was amazing to see how many people came up, both in the streams, but also like in person, to talk about how much they wanted Fox Patrol merch and how much.
I can say firsthand account. There were tons of people who were at Adepticon approaching over Fox Patrol. Like, that was crazy to see, which is good.
Yeah. No, it was really helpful, and it I think it helps let them know where the energy really is especially when, you know, there are definitely folks out there not satisfied with where the direction of the universe is heading, but countering that with positivity and letting Catalyst know what you love about what they're doing and where things are heading is always a good thing. And think about what you can do to, like, spread the love of the game and the universe to people. You know, I'm actually really excited. We're still in the planning phases, but it looks like when Without Question releases, I'm going to kind of do like a 3 store tour in Utah, where I'm at, where we're going to do like some readings and some book signings, but also some demos of the games, and just show people the games and get as many people in the stores as possible, just to show them how fun Battletech is and how cool the universe is. And anything you can do to like spread that and bring more people in is a good thing. And
just in general, like, you know, just to build on what you're saying there, positivity is something that, you know, I've been very fortunate to have an abundance of it. Everybody can become a negative Nancy for a little while, but, you know, in general, I've been very happy with what has come out. And, you know, ever since getting back from KerenskyCon, I have felt a wave of positivity that has been with me for basically a month. Like, it's been, you know, just, I've been riding on a high for it in terms of, like, you know, there's so much good out there. There's so much good in terms of the tabletop game. There's so much good in terms of the stuff that's coming out. And not everything is going to land. That's life. You know, like, the main thing I would just say is, you know, remember that, you know, be the change you want to be in terms of being, like, positive about the things you enjoy. The worst thing in the world I can imagine is, you know, being involved with something that you claim to enjoy, but it just makes you miserable. Like, just, you know, put that positivity out into the world.
Yeah. No, I think that's well said. And I think you'll have more people to play Battletech with, the more positive you are about Battletech out in the world.
And the best part about it is one day, if you're positive enough, you can unlock the divine wisdom of Jerome Blake.
That's one way of putting it. That's definitely one way of putting it.
You can either be illuminated by the light of his wisdom, or you can be destroyed in his fiery wrath. So, you know, we can all look forward to that. Poor
I don't know what to say to that.
Poor Brian is sitting there like, God damn it. So, but with that,
I didn't realize I was coming on a televangelist show for Jerome Blake.
You know what? I was at the dog park the other day. They're like, we should make stuff up. I'm like, we don't need to make stuff up. We should co-opt things like Blakeism. And they're like, what's Blakeism? I'm like, you have made a terrible decision asking me this question.
Yeah.
Good point. But yeah, so I think we've gone over everything. I think we've had a great... actually, there's 2 more chats just before we end things here, which is, can't believe this hasn't come up yet, but have you exposed the greatness of Bondsman being... Oh, yes, they... No, I actually don't think we talked about the Bondsman Savannah Master at all. So the chat came up with the idea that when you capture people, you throw them into a fan, which I think is a little harsh. I think that's a little harsh. Not like that type of fan either. They're talking like a large, like multi-ton thing that propels a hovercraft.
The Battletech equivalent of a wood chipper.
Yeah, like, you know, and I don't like traders as much as anyone else, of course, but I don't know if that's the right way to handle those types of problems.
I mean, it's to your benefit to say that's not how you should handle traders as someone known in the community for his epic betrayal. So I see what you're doing. And it's not going to work.
You know what? I will have you know, sir, that these things do work all the time. So Merv DeGriff says, "Glory to Davion, Seabill, and my my MRBC rating. Freedom Sword is for hire, my dudes." Well, that I don't think. I mean, that is an approach. Trucking Joe says, "Praise be unto Blake." Well, I'm not going to disagree with Trucking Joe. That's going to get a nice upvote from me. And then Besker says, Brian realizing that Red is a fanatic. It's a fanatic Blakist who wasn't off during the Blakist era. For the record, they're not even my favorite. I just think they're hilarious. My favorite faction is the Free Worlds League.
I will say too, I do want to write some jihad fiction, and I want to write.
Oh,
Blakist.
You said the word. Don't say the word on the YouTubes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot.
We'll let it. I'm gonna keep this one live anyway, and we'll see if it affects the algorithm. Sometimes YouTube gives you a free pass, but it's an.
But Blakist era stuff. Blakist era stuff is stuff that I would be very interested in working on.
Yeah, I mean, like I think there's room to expand what's there. You know, it is the most controversial era of BattleTech. You know, just in general, because of there's a lot of reasons why it's controversial, but it has some amazing mechs in it, and I think anything that adds some shine to it is a good thing overall. And so yeah, I think we've edited it later. It's this cut moment. It's like, I would really like to write some, but it cuts to the next part. But I want to thank Brian for being here with us all today and answering questions from the chat and having a great conversation about BattleTech with me. You know, I don't say this very often, but I consider Brian and a lot of the folks who I hung out with at KerenskyCon and Adepticon my friends. And so it has been an absolute blast hanging out with you again. We should do it again at some point after Without Question comes out, so I can just grill you. Like, I could just be like, I can't believe you wrote this book. And you're like, oh, because it was great. I'm like, no, this is the worst book I've ever... No, just kidding.
Yeah, no, I'll sign up for that too. It's fine. No press is bad press.
Can you imagine the most hostile interview imaginable? You're like, do you want to dial back a bit? I'm like, do you want to write a better book? Oh my God.
I did. It's called Voidbreaker.
That's why I keep on asking you to read it. I don't understand where your problems are. But no, it was genuinely an absolute blast to talk to you again. Thank you again for coming on. I know you're going to be busy over the next couple days, so the best of luck on your adventures over those days. And I'm looking super forward to Without Question.
Yeah, I will. See about us getting it to you as fast as we can, and I can't wait for everybody else to check it out. And like I said, the first 3 chapters, if you've got Amazon or Drive-Thru, you can re-download it and check them out now.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
We'll catch you all next time.